Some bad news in the polling for President Trump. His approval rating hitting new lows. CNN's Harry Enten is running the numbers on this one for us. Hello, Harry.
Hello, Kate.
Where does the president stand?
Happy Washington's birthday observed today. That's what it is in the state of New York. I'm a New Yorker through and through. Let's take a look at another president, though. President Donald John Trump. Look at this. I got 4 numbers across for you on this screen here. They are all second-term lows for the given pollster. What are we talking about? AP North, 26 points below water. NBC, 22 points below water. Yahoo YouGov, 20 points below water. Quinnipiac, 19 points below water. So we're ranging from negative 19 points all the way to negative 26 points. You know, Kate, there's this question that folks keep asking, where is the floor for Donald Trump? And I'm not sure there is a floor, because if there is one, Donald Trump, at least in term number 2, has just fallen through it to another low level.
Donald Trump's approval rating has hit an all-time low across 4 polls, and CNN's Harry Enten is not holding back. He's letting everybody know that the Republicans are in for a rude awakening come November.
Well, I think you would have a Democrat who would say, let's do voter ID, but that's not actually what the SAVE Act is. So Jim Clyburn's talked about this, and he said, I'm for voter ID. I'm not for disproportionate voter ID. And what the SAVE Act does is that it requires that you either have your birth certificate or your passport, which is different than accepting a driver's license, for instance. And the reason for that,
I don't know if that's true.
It is true. Read the bill.
Okay, I will.
I'm sorry, that might hurt you.
And then tomorrow we'll have to correct it.
Well, I won't be here,
there's no
so you can give it to Harold.
There's no way this bill requires people to show up with their birth certificates. Then Barack couldn't register.
That's disgusting, first of all.
We believe he's American.
There is a very strong case, actually, that the SAVE Act will hurt more Republicans than it will Democrats. If you look at estimates right now, so 21 million Americans don't have ready access to either their passport or their birth certificate. 50% of Americans don't have a passport at all. If you want to talk about who has a passport versus who doesn't, we can get into that and where they might vote. Then on top of it, to your voter fraud idea, people do actually look into it. Even like the Heritage Foundation, very conservative, found 35 illegal aliens voted in 2024. Utah just did a review of 2 million people in their voter rolls, came up with 1 non-citizen registration and no non-citizen
Utah. Try
voting.
California.
So getting rid of also universal mail-in voting, which is part of this, would affect a red state in Utah, Nevada, that also voted for Trump.
And the reality is the SAVE Act absolutely is not going to make voting easier or more accessible for Americans. It's quite the opposite. In fact, 20 million American women could be disenfranchised if their last names aren't their surnames, which, of course, traditionally and culturally, the norm is for women to take the man's last name. And 50% of Americans don't have passports. But the problem is that can negatively impact Republicans as well, because, as we know, women exist in the Republican Party.
Let's not treat women. You worked with a lot of these women in Congress. They are brilliant. They're smart. Why do you suggest that they don't know how to prove their citizenship by bringing a passport or a birth certificate or a marriage certificate and or the new Social Security card that gets issued right after they get married? This is all nonsense. This is something that's common sense. Almost all Americans agree with it. Its time has come. You must prove that you're a citizen when you register to vote. Makes sense. You got plenty of time to get that done. And you got to show up with a photo ID to prove that you are the person that is indeed the citizen entitled to vote. It's an easy thing. It should be done tomorrow.
We've been getting a lot of questions about the Save America Act, the strict voter ID law that our Republican colleagues are trying to ram through Congress. So here's the deal. Only American citizens can vote in our elections. It's illegal for anyone who's not an American citizen to vote in our elections, and there is virtually no evidence that anyone who is not a citizen is trying to vote in our federal elections. So this is a solution in search of a problem. The big problem, though, is that the conditions of this act would prevent millions of American citizens from being able to vote. It would prevent citizens from being able to exercise their right to vote. Right now, you can register to vote using your Pennsylvania license. Not under this act. You have to have a real ID that shows citizenship, and Pennsylvania's real ID doesn't do that. You're going to have to get a passport, and that costs $165, and it can take months to come through. So we're going to have a lot of new voters, people who have to re-register because they move. It's going to really screw up our elections. So we don't need it. We have no proof that anyone is trying to vote in our elections who isn't eligible to. So This is a bad idea.
I mean, the list is endless for why Donald Trump's popularity is tumbling off a cliff. First and foremost, he's literally gone back on all of his promises. The gains that he made with Latinos, gone. The gains that he made with the black community, gone. The gains that he made with young men and the youth, completely gone. Because he's a warmonger imperialist who's trying to expand Western influence over the Western Hemisphere, or rather American influence over the Western Hemisphere. Changing the game up, bringing it back to the Monroe Doctrine. And then, of course, the economy is crumbling. Prices are up across the board. He won't let up on the tariffs. And that seems to be his only weapon against other countries, even though it's nothing but a giant sales tax to American consumers. In fact, data shows that in 2025, the tariffs cost American families an average of $1,000 extra. And if that trend continues in 2026, those tariffs could cost American families $1,300 extra, which is a lot of money when you add it up for things that people need. Supplies for children, food, and just, regular leisure, maybe taking your family out to dinner. And then, of course, we have him being all over the Epstein files over 1 million times. And there's still 3 million Epstein files that have yet to be released. And Pam Bondi says they won't be. I mean, it's not as if we haven't seen enough. We kind of get the picture, but by law, they're supposed to release those files. He's lost people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who voted with him 90+% of the time, who even to this day really holds back in her criticisms of him, right? He calls her Marjorie Trader Brown now. Regardless of the fact that the midterm elections typically swing the House to the opposite party of whoever's in control of the executive branch, Donald Trump is saying, maybe we shouldn't have midterm elections because we're doing so good historically well. There's never been a more successful president than Donald Trump, suggesting that we should nationalize the elections. He's probably going to try to raid more election offices as he did in Fulton County, Georgia. And him and Caroline Leavitt have not ruled out that there may be ICE agents at the polls. So one day at a time, we're looking and finding that Donald Trump and the Republicans are in for a seriously rude awakening in November.